Hey, folks, this clip is brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ. That is Farm Bureau Health Plans. JJ Harrell, out of nowhere for the most part. I mean, I saw even recruiting guys just kind of being like, this was unexpected. And the main reason that this commitment was unexpected to Tennessee is because this kid is from northern Mississippi. And the common knowledge around him was that he was really looking at going to Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin, and Tennessee gets the steal. What'd you think of this, Zach?
I think this is where you're kind of seeing what we talked about, the Nico effect, kind of showing up. And it hurt. I remember who we had spoke to about recruiting. Maybe it was Matt Ray when we talked to him earlier this month. That talked about we would see kind of this down the road, how he would impact recruiting, and because the 2023 class was somewhat already set with a lot of those guys. Well, a big reason why Harold committed to Tennessee was because of Nico. He told 24 or rival or on three that Nico was a big reason that was the quarterback that he wanted to play with. If he could choose anybody, it would be Nico. So you'll probably see, more of this in the coming years. And as Tennessee continues to build this program and get top quarterback commits, because I think, Nico should not be the last one that they get. This will continue to be a trend for Tennessee. And it's kind of like a, trickle down effect where you get the quarterback, you can get the wide receivers. It just kind of all fills in around them, and you can really get some momentum going. So, really good pickup for Tennessee. He sounds like a guy that just loves playing football and wants to do whatever's asked for him from him on the field. We use this comparison a lot, but kind of has that Jawan Jennings mindset. I don't know if he'll be quite the dog that Jennings was. They don't make many like him, but he kind of that's his style of play. Like that's the kind of guy you're getting. A little bit more explosive, though, more of a playmaker. Jennings was limited in his speed. Didn't hurt him too much at Tennessee, of course, or even in the NFL, just because of the way he plays. But I think it's a guy that Tennessee fans will really like the way he plays.
I love the general optics of this. On top of him, obviously, it seems like being a pretty dynamic athlete, and that's great. But the win over Kiffin here illustrates something that I think is really great outside of just beating out the guy that was formerly your coach and kind of screwed you over. But beyond that, it kind of shows that Josh Heupel, because of this last season and just everything that's happened with his offense in recruiting, he's genuinely viewed differently. And I did a show over the weekend with Mark Rogers. He calls himself Voice of College Football on YouTube. Go find his channel after you watch this. He does great stuff. But I was talking with him, and he actually said, I watch Josh Heupel throughout the season, and I just said, what he's doing is different. Like he's different from all these other dudes. He's doing things that other guys simply aren't doing. And I feel like this is exact proof positive of recruits seeing it that exact way. Like if you go to Tennessee, this deal is different, especially when you're a wide receiver. Jalen Hyatt obviously coming off of a Bolitnikoff and the crazy production that entire Tennessee offense had. I mean, it was wild, and it stands out. And even within I would say honestly, an elite offensive guy like Kiffin, he really has been one of the leading guys in college football in terms of this offense. Josh Heupel still sets himself apart from even that. Like what he has done is just crazily impressive, and it impresses these recruits. You honestly, you can't say enough about that and the way that it's paying dividends. But I like your point about Nico. I hadn't necessarily thought about that, but that's absolutely. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Obviously, I would bet that that's a part of this because that's who this kid will be playing ball with. Like that, theoretically, his first 2 years, he would be.
Yeah.
Nico would probably be his quarterback. So, a pickup like this is just exact confirmation of everything that we've been hoping would come to fruition. Where we talked about, after the Alabama game, this is going to take recruiting to the earth level. At the Florida game, the LSU game, we sort of had those conversations where it's like the perception of this changes. But then you look at the body of work in totality and the way that this offense has just shined at a national level and been so impressive. Dudes are noticing it, and it's great to see it finally paying off. Farm Bureau Health Plans has been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years, and much has changed in Tennessee over the years, but some has stayed the same. Farm Bureau Health Plans has always valued personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. Plan on Farm Bureau Health Plans for health, dental, and vision. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ or walk into one of their 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. That is fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Yeah, I don't know if Tennessee, obviously they're not quite in that Alabama, Georgia realm yet because they have to win the championship. They have to prove those things. But I do think they're pretty much, I feel like we can pretty much cement them among like perennial top 10 teams in the country. Like they're in that what Oklahoma was with Lincoln Riley, where they're going to be a playoff contender, especially now with the expanded playoff, pretty much every year. Like the thing's rolling right now, exactly like they don't need anything else to happen. It's only going to get better from here. If they just, they don't even have like, if you took all the talent on Tennessee's roster, it's not a top 10 talent, not a top 10 roster in terms of talent, if that makes sense. They're not there yet, but they're performing at that level. So if you get a couple of top 10 classes in a row, in theory, they're going to be even better, right? They're going to be even more in that top 5 range, more of a contender to win a championship. So there's really, the only thing that could slow them down is something happening to Josh Heupel, which obviously, you can't forecast something like that, but there's nothing on the horizon that suggests anything is going to happen there. Heupel's a upstanding guy, handles himself the right way, handles the program the right way. Hasn't even been a hint of any shadiness happening with him leading the program. He's not going anywhere. He's happy at Tennessee. I wouldn't even be that worried if the Oklahoma job opened at this point, just because I don't think that's what he wants. I think he's exactly where he wants to be. And he's got this thing moving in the right direction. It doesn't feel like there's any slowing it down right now.
I don't think there is. The only thing that could slow it down is maybe the results of this upcoming season. It does make me a little bit nervous because obviously you're selling really what comes after this season. That's what they're selling to these current recruits. But if you can have another season compounding where you show that success again and with a different quarterback this time, just think like that's how you get to truly elite recruiting. You do have to prove it to these kids. This isn't, we've said it plenty, but like he didn't come here with a silver spoon in his mouth like Kirby at Georgia, where Rick had done a good job recruiting and had a lot of elite players, but just hadn't, won those big games. And, it wasn't like that here. It was a total rebuild, a total teardown. And he's just putting the walls back up. And so, I don't want to say it scares me this upcoming season, but it excites me maybe that if they can have another similar season, that's where you can probably launch into regularly dealing with elite recruits like a Georgia, like an Alabama is doing already. I think it might take that. But for now, in this situation, this kid's a borderline blue chip. If, 4-star, I think he's number 205 in America, maybe in the 247 composite. Oh, no, 104. So I was thinking I added 100 spots. So yeah, he's plenty near the top in terms of recruits. It's a great pickup. And so I love it, but it is still, at the end of the day, this is still a foundational thing. Like you're still kind of building that foundation where I think hopefully if you continue this success into the future, that's when it will become the, where you're essentially recruiting nobody but blue chips. I also think bringing your defense along has something to do with that too. But, it's exciting. I just think it's great because Heupel, I'll always go back to it probably the whole time that he's here, but just what's happened compared to the expectations I had with him coming in, it's just so crazy. Because everybody was like, can he recruit? I don't know if he can recruit. And man, look at him now. It's so impressive. So impressive.
Yeah, 2023 really is when Josh Heupel can kind of prove himself as a legitimate elite head coach. Obviously, Nick Saban is at the top of that list, and nobody's going to knock him off until he retires because of what he's accomplished. But if Heupel can this is supposed to be kind of a transition year for Tennessee. We have high hopes for Joe Milton. We know he has the talent to be great. He has the talent to be talked about in next year's draft like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. In fact, he should be no matter what, because neither one of those two guys showed a ton in college, and they're both projected top 10 picks. Milton is just as physically impressive, if not more so, than both of those guys. But the story's Nico, 2024 and beyond. The story is some of these guys they're bringing in. Like that's the championship run. That's what we're expecting from Tennessee in 2024, 2025 to go compete for a championship. 2023 kind of feels like last year a little bit, where okay, we're thinking 10-3. Like 10-3 is a pretty good season. 10-3 keeps the momentum going. You lose to Alabama and Tuscaloosa. You drop the Georgia. Maybe they beat them. I don't know. But right now, I think we kind of have to assume that Georgia's the favorite in that matchup. And you can't count out, dropping another game like the South Carolina game. I don't think that's going to happen again. But those games are always possible in the SEC. You finish this season 10-3 in what's supposed to be a transition year. I think that really keeps that momentum going. Anything more than that, you go 11-2 again. I think you're really going to pick up some momentum then.
Yeah. Whew. Sky's the limit. I mean, we all know that. Tennessee was always a sleeping giant, and it's waking up, honestly, you went 11-2, has woken up.
And but Jeff made a comment that I know you're actually going to agree with, because we've talked about it before about Georgia's schedule.
Oh, yeah, he says, just sucks that Tennessee won't make the SEC championship this year because UGA's schedule is so garbage. Well, what they could, they have to beat Georgia.
Yeah, that's no easy task.
That is the thing. But yeah, their schedule is such an absolute joke this coming season. It's more of a joke than Ohio State's schedule.
And I was, not to go too off on this too much, but I was kind of looking and projecting what Tennessee's schedule could look like under the new format when they're expected to go to the 3-6 model with 3 permanent opponents and 6 rotating opponents, which basically means an extra conference game, and you play Georgia every other year. You play LSU every other year, Texas A&M. You're going to play these teams every 2 years, so you're really not escaping Georgia that much. When you don't have Georgia on the schedule, you're probably going to have LSU or Auburn or another pretty good SEC team, and Florida also is going to be in there. And I don't think they're going to be down for that long. It'd be nice if they are, but they're going to be a tough game every time it's a rivalry game. So even in the future, that schedule's still going to be tough. Good thing it's going to a 12-team playoff, because I really think you're not going to see that many undefeated seasons, because Georgia's schedule should get tougher. They're going to have to play tougher teams. They're not going to get the weak crossover opponent like they get sometimes, where they might luck out and play Auburn when they're not so great, and whoever their crossover is this year, it's probably Mississippi State or something, I'm sure.
It's a total joke. I don't remember which team it is exactly, but it's pathetic.
We
know that much, but there's that as far as sort of current football news. There was a little bit of recruiting stuff this week that you wrote a little bit about. That's just Tennessee getting a visit from some big recruits. There's kind of been some smoke around some different guys, Jarrett Gibson and a couple other guys, but nothing to necessarily report in terms of movement towards committing to Tennessee or anything like that. But we'll obviously keep tabs on it